warm welcome to the today's webinar on discussion of future of professionals, risk and rewards,
Thank you.
hosted by homeClass. Just wanted to give my introduction, and if you can provide your introduction as well to the audience, that will be helpful. Uh, I have been in this profession of BFSI for last 20 years. I worked with banks, NBFCs, and fintech for technology collaborations, launch of co-branded cards, working on a new technology platform where we do partnerships with different kind of entities to lend to digital lending, area this current work. So if you can just give a short introduction to the audience, that will be great helpful, and then we can kickstart Rajnish. Very welcome, warm welcome to this show. Yeah.
Thank you. So I have been in the IT profession for the last 26 years. It's been with SAP all through. So I was one of the founding members when our SAP was coming into India and to the APJ region. Prior to that, I was working for Tata Steel for about 6 years. So a total of about 32 years of an experience, mainly into project management and delivery and so on and so forth. For the last 15 years, I've been with product development. So we are building niche solutions for the customer. And now I'm responsible for the industry cloud solutions that we have in the area of oil and gas, which has been one of my forte industries earlier. Also with the utilities companies and the life sciences, which is a relatively new and upcoming portfolio for SAP. So
Okay.
this is a global role. I have teams across the geography and offices both in India and in Germany. So I keep operating out of multiple locations. It's difficult for me to realize which time zone I am, but I'm fortunate to be here. Thank you so much.
Great, to have you. So this is very well, hot topic right nowadays across which kind of professional you need to get into. Starting from early age, people who are choosing their career, they want to go in science or they want to go for engineering. So and people are already in some line. So what are the skills? So let me start with the question where what significant changes in the job market are you seeing foresee in the next decade by recent development of whatever happening of AI, new products, etc. So what kind of significant changes are you seeing?
Thank you. So first and foremost, the jobs, I mean, look, there has been a continuous change, and I want to dissociate this from, let's say, the advent of the AI or automation, because some of the questions are around that. So first and foremost, jobs that existed for our previous generations, they don't exist today. And the careers that our kids want to pursue for their college degrees, I mean, are unheard of in our times, right? So it's very difficult to predict how the future would look like. And here I draw my inspirations or my knowledge mainly from a lot of books that I read in this area. One thing is common, that the job markets are mainly driven by a confluence of infotech. Obviously, you can't have an industry which does not have a footprint of information technology and biotech. More than before, the COVID has proved the necessity of faster cycles of research and deployment and so on and so forth. And our own aspirations to stay young and grow and to solve world problems. So this is something that I believe in. It's not my own theory. I would say I picked it up from Yuval Noah Harari's predictions.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my favorite authors.
Oh,
other than Michio Kaku, but these are things that I would probably endorse there. End of the day, we need to understand that we have more than 4 billion minds today globally, which is working on some kind of an innovation in some field or the other. And God only knows what they come up with in the future. Very difficult to predict. So yes, it is rapidly changing, but I don't think anybody can pinpoint what is the job market of tomorrow is going to look like exactly.
So traditionally, people will say you go to engineering or you go to medical. You know,
Yes.
that's the only two stream in India is popular about, right? So right now, as you rightly said, people have a different choices. Even my kids and everyone talks a different kind of lines, and then we get, oh my God, what is this? What kind of line? Is that a future or what is it? So I understand, it's completely new, thinking process which is already been embedded into the people, right? So yeah, so in this kind of change, how technology is, reshaping the landscape for this traditional profession, which I just talked about. So you need to go to engineering. This is the way it's going to be, and if you go to medical, it's going to be like that. So how technology is reshaping the entire landscape?
I think it's important to understand the role of technology to start with. Okay, because there are further questions that I saw for the people who registered early in terms of where the automation is taking us. Is it going to take away our jobs and so on and so forth?
Yes.
Uh, I think we need to understand that whatever be the profession, the role of IT is more of a complementary role. And we'll discuss later why I come to this conclusion. But I think the central philosophy of why we need for people who release products or who release technology, the whole idea is to convert scarcity into abundance.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and let's talk about some of the examples of scarce resources and how technology is trying to create abundance out of that.
Hmm.
For example, energy. Now, if we look at the traditional forms of energy, we come back and say, you know what, there is not enough in this world, and the carbon footprint has to be managed and things like that. But when you look at just the solar radiation that hits the earth, it is 6,000 times more than what the world's energy consumption looks like today. Okay, so that and how do we, the challenge then becomes, how do I harness this?
Hmm.
I mean, look at the proliferation of electric cars, and which is made
Yes.
possible through the batteries. So these are new areas where people are going in. It's throwing up a lot of industry opportunities as we move forward, including things like the conventional trading, commodity trading that we used to do.
Hmm.
Nowadays, companies are trading on raw material or rare earth material, because that is what is required for batteries. So these are things then. So parallel to crude and any other commodity, now you have the rare earth material commodity which is going on. Let's pick up the second topic, which we believe is scarce,
Hmm.
water.
Yes.
We are using technology to generate water from the atmosphere's humidity. I mean, these are proven technologies, or rather, these are good experiments that move towards proven technology and so on and so forth. I'll not touch hydrogen when we discussed energy, but that's another area.
Yeah.
Health. Okay, I mean, now that I have been into the life sciences in the recent past, I mean, the amount of advancements that we have made in, for example, in the gene therapies, there are about 20 gene therapies which is already approved, which is called the batch of one. Okay, so you
Uh-huh.
create specific medicine based on the genetic defects that you have, and there are more than 400 such researches which is in various stages. And the idea is that more than 89% of gene defects, at some point in time, people will find solutions.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Okay, the hundreds have become the new 60s, so people just don't admit that they have reached the age of 60. The whole human longevity, if I may say,
Yeah.
is something that, and the health span that people look for, uh, is definitely an area which has been scarce. So health as a resource is scarce to has been a scarce to us. If we just look a couple of generations ago, no longer anymore. Of course, that brings in a different challenge for the kids, because we will still be in business when they grow up. But that's a challenge. Learning. I mean, we are on this platform. There's no
Oh
dearth
yes.
of data. Okay, no need to collect data. It's there everywhere, available in any shape, any form for you to go ahead and do any kind of an analysis. Okay, we talk about time being
Hmm.
scarce. Look at the kind of speed of access that we look for. We live in an instant world. I mean, if now for a blip moment my Zoom doesn't work, people will become restless.
Yes.
That's the reality.
Including WhatsApp and all. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
a
you
part of
just
life.
can't expect a couple of round trips there. And it's not only limited to the kids, the adults are restless also,
Yeah.
right? So for the whole money resources,
Hmm.
anything, the whole process of demonetization or democratization of resources that we talk about. I mean, look at the proliferation of mobile phones. Look at the gigabit speed which is there in every home, by which we are able to host some of these courses things. It has made things so cheaper and so affordable and accessible to people. The whole expertise based on which I would say some of these edtech companies are gaining a footprint. I mean, these are things that have been scarce. You had to fly down a guy from US to give a speech for 30 minutes. Not anymore.
Not really.
You know, so these are things where the role of the IT is. Okay, and these are also opening up a whole new bunch of industry forays. I mean, if you look at the recent past, how quickly did we become an online delivery world from a mom and pop shop during COVID? I mean, it took us less than 6 months to get
Absolutely.
there. Okay,
And it's
now
become part of life now. Yeah.
you can't even imagine a home mom and pop store not being able to give an online delivery or home delivery, or not having an online thing, right? So
It's a forced change, yeah, with the situation.
yeah, so
Hmm.
the bottom line is that it's going to be vastly different than what we see today, and the future is not that future anymore. I mean, it's going to hit us in our lifetimes pretty soon. That's
Yeah.
all I can say. Probably give you some ideas in terms of how technology is shaping the new world.
No, no, thanks. And it was very, very helpful where, as you rightly said, instances like, the light of the moment, right? So we are in a digital lending and with a partnership, right? Banks, the traditional banks and with fintech, we are able to provide the technology. People are getting loans, money in real time. They don't wait, okay, come I back after a week or 3 days, 5 days. It's a 3 minute, money into the account and instantly they can, use. So that's how the technology is moving very fast with all the partnerships and collaborations across different ecosystem, of course, which I can see that. So I understand. So uh, if you can also talk about what are the new uh, highlight of some of the emerging professions which was not there a decade ago or any, because you are already ahead of the curve. SAP is already ahead, IT industry is ahead because they can see what are the changes, and as you listed down some of the biggest opportunity in different kind of work environment. So what are the emerging professions you can talk about?
Look, I mean, I think it's more about the content of the job changing.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, if you were to ask me, how do we compare, let's say, to 1940s? Yes, in a 1940, you wouldn't find a manager, or you would not find management, for example.
Yeah.
Some of these roles came as a part of industrial age. Okay, I'm still the old school who wanted to call myself as an IT professional, but now people come back and say, no, you should call yourself as a technocrat, because that's different.
Okay.
Okay, but so I won't say that it's very difficult to say. Just if I look at a decade ago, I mean, because the boom in India started in 90s, early 90s, but uh, it's been there since 80s, I would say. So from that perspective, I think whether it is a job of a research assistant or an IT or tech professional, it is not changed per se, but yeah, the content has definitely differed in terms of depending on which industry you have been. Okay, so earlier we had more generalists, and thanks to some of the proliferation of jobs and opportunities, there is a whole new breed of specialists. So if you walk today into a hospital, you only get into specialty hospitals or super specialty hospitals, and that is a truth. And all these specializations, they require a very high degree of knowledge and skills across multiple disciplinary subjects. Okay, so you just can't come back and say, oh, by the way, I'm a computer science grad and hence I don't understand anything more about the business, I know coding. It does not work. If you go back and say I'm an engineer, you will find that probably as you grow up, one degree is not enough, or one knowledge of an education is not enough.
Hmm.
And that's why you find multiple people pursuing multiple degrees, multiple skills. And obviously, skill is not equal to degrees. You can obviously have a lot of skills developed. But yeah, an engineering without the knowledge of the business, and you can call that as an MBA, for example, or a medical practitioner not knowing the law, with the kind of
Oh
lawsuits which
yes.
are coming in, okay, or somebody who is studying a science subject without the knowledge of languages, or cultures, because obviously if you are, moving into some other place, you need a lot of training and the knowledge and culture of that place, for you to be accepted there. So at the end, you need to be sort of a jack of multiple trades. Uh,
Hmm.
and you should have the ability to go and learn, and get pretty fast onto a learning curve so that you don't become an obsolete. And here, the rate of change of skill, which is required in any field that you are there, it's as exponential as the world is demanding out of IT or any other profession.
I agree. Completely agree. So, because as the roles are changing, across the categories and the requirements also changing, right? Clients requirement, industry requirement, everything. So, want to just touch upon, do company required to train those professionals, because the people are coming to you as a company, you know do you need to provide training for 3 6 months to make sure their skills and everything required, or they are just on the job, they can just start? So do SHAP or any company provide those kind of trainings to your own employee to upgrade those skills? I have seen a lot of articles, AI launches in a SAP, or some kind of learning center has been launched for some professionals. So if you can just give some idea, people will understand, how SAP is taking some steps to educate their own or upbring those skills as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, we follow a methodology of 10-20-70.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where 10 is a classroom training. What we believe is this is something that you can all, that's a maximum that you can grasp out of, let's say, classroom. The 20 is more in terms of, let's say, shadowing, coaching, mentoring from seniors. So you are watched while you work, your things are being reviewed, you are being provided all kinds of helps as you move on. But 70% of our learning is actually experiential learning. People learn as they go through. Of course, we have processes that are stringent, because you can't, for example, in a cloud world, afford to make a mistake. It hits millions
Mail.
of people, right? So it is something that you have. These are processes that are controlled, but from a training or an education perspective, these are some of the things that become very we follow this 10-20-70 pattern of learning. So even when we hire people, we look for different qualities, rather than do you really know this program or you that of course you need to know, I mean, otherwise why would you have applied? uh,
Hmm.
but that's not the only criteria by which we hire, or we go ahead with.
Oh, that's nice. Nice to hear this something new. 10, 20, 70. Formula. That's nice. So let's come back to current world where we are changing rapidly. In this professional environment, what kind of skills do you believe will be in high demand? So that is what people will look for, right? People who are looking their uh, son, daughters to go for those particular. So what are the skills, or uh, what are the things will be much more in demand in coming years?
Yeah, so as I said, I mean, there is no prediction of one skill that becomes dominant as you move forward. The rate of change of skill is going to be pretty high. Okay. With whatever technology or with whatever background I had today, 3 years down the line, I would say that becomes obsolete if a person is at that level. Okay. So I think it's more around the mindset, or some of the competencies than the skills that you would look for. And the first and foremost in this
Hmm.
is an open and learning mindset. Okay, you know, when I joined job, people used to say, "Arey, now you are an engineer, so you've done it," and now it's like, you plant a mango tree, and for the rest of your life you can have the mango out of that. Not anymore.
Not right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
The day you stop learning, you start becoming obsolete.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Very well.
and here, by learning, as I said, it's not only about a classroom learning. Okay, and it is not always learning from the experts. A lot of learning that I have had has been beyond the hierarchy and beyond the normal. Okay, yeah, Google Cloud is internet is a good source of learning. Some articles are good source of learning. Podcasts are good source of learning. But then you also learn from some of the people who join my organization pretty new. I mean, they are with the latest and the greatest. So that is something which we also call as, by the way, a reverse mentoring program.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to be always the mentor. Sometimes you can be a mentee when the youngsters come back and tell you, "Hey, look, these are some of the things that are there," and there are some good examples that I have for reverse mentoring in the past for myself.
Mm-hmm.
The third point that I would come through is a more balanced learning. Okay, um, you know, unless and until you are getting into a research for a particular topic, have a balance of both science, humanities, and art. You know, I started off, most of the schools and the education boards today are giving a balance to these courses. So it's no longer like, you just need to take, if you are in science, you have to have maths, chemistry, physics, biology, or computer science for whatever, right? So you will see more and more kids taking, for example, economics as the additional subject, or
Mm-hmm.
a language course as an additional subject, and these help in the future. Okay, so imagine I sit through meetings all the way from US down into Sao Paulo. Sometimes I'm in Japan, and New Zealand, and everything all across. I don't even know how to greet people. I mean, if I land up into that situation, the first thing that I do is actually go into some of those language courses to understand how to say hello and a thank you. But I'm amazed how the next generation kids can even converse in multiple languages. Okay, and this is where I feel that a balanced education across various disciplines is more relevant. Open to digital trends, yeah. I mean, you just can't shut your brain off from IT.
You
I mean,
can't. Yeah, it's a now part of life.
my daughter is in fourth year medicine, and she was asking me this summer. She was doing a project which was more around data interpretation, and she was saying, Dad, I'm just sitting and do what my coding. I said, you have to do that. My son was like far away from science, decided to do his economics, but at some point in time he had to pick up data science, because otherwise you just can't do an econometrics project or any kind of behavioral sciences out there. So
Mm.
this is something that open to digital trends is something that is there at every age, at every level. Okay, and an inquisitive mind. So in our times, it was like, have you finished chapter 1 to 7? Yes, I have. Questions will come from chapter 3, 7, and 5. These are the questions. Just go and go there, and you can get 99 out of 100. Well, I couldn't even reach closer to 99, but for those who are keen on 99s and hundreds, I would say that is not the only criteria. And
Very well
yes,
said.
it is a very important one. I am not trying to put that through. But if you shut up the kids from asking the right questions, then you are asking them to be more and more conformists, which is not going to be helpful for their own mindset. And yes, I do understand that the kids now are more inquisitive than what we were in our times, uh, but the more the better.
More the better.
Okay.
Absolutely. And you rightly touched upon, my son is in 10th class, and we were now school is asking which subject, you're going for engineering preparation or going for the medical, you do decide now. And it's in 10th. We were shocked, so we just asked him. So he said, give me 1 or 2 days, I'll come back to you. And he said, Daddy, I want to be neurosurgeon. And in our entire family, there is no doctor, no neurosurgeon. And I said, hey, what's happening? He said, Daddy, this AI and all this thing, you're going to take over many jobs. But neurosurgeon is a critical area where is they are finding it very difficult and people will not allow them to do by some automatic. Where have you done all this? He said, research. So at the time when I was at 10th, people, I was not aware about all this kind of which line will to go. Oh, okay, engineering or this, just binary 1, 2, and just move forward, right? So I understand where you're coming from, and your children are talking about learning new technologies and etc. So what advice you have for parents and education institutions in preparing these students for their future career? Because you have seen 30 years of vast from industrial startup to now tech evolutions and now new wave of technology coming up into space. So what kind of you have advice, because every parent is a very curious which stream to go for, and educational also need, as you rightly said, the syllabus are changing. They are more becoming practice oriented rather than the only knowledge based or book based approach. So if you can give some light on it, that will be very. Hmm.
Yeah. Maybe too many parents will not thank me for this. Thankfully, I'm out of that that era, so I can be a bit more philosophical. I can
Hmm.
tell you, I was much more tense when the kids were at the age that you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, a lot of what I've spoken earlier, uh, I would say that, if I have to highlight one advice, which is, it shows my internet connection unstable. Is it still unstable, or can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, now I can hear you.
Sure. So I think the first and probably the most important advice that I would give to parents and teachers is really to groom the children to be confident and yet humble. Okay. Kids can afford to get low scores while they're learning because not every subject is to their liking. Okay, so there will be courses where they are good, there will be courses they are bad, but their confidence should not be dented. Uh, it takes years to build that confidence, which can be destroyed by a couple of instances, especially when it comes from the parents and the teachers, because for the kid, the parents and the teachers are gods, right? So if depending on what are the positive strokes or the negative vibes that they get from the parents uh, or teachers, this is going to shape a lot of who they are as they grow up to be a human being. And yes, when I talk about confidence, a lot of people come back with, between confidence and arrogance, there's a very fine line. You never know when you have stepped onto the other side.
Hmm.
And that happens throughout your lifetime. And there, I would say, equally important is to teach humility. You know, and quite often, especially more in the social world, the pride that we have in our own kids transform them to believe that they know it all. Positive stroke is good, but the conditioning, early conditioning, for every 100 that you get some 5 pats on the back and so on and so forth from the first Olympiad that you kick. These are all very good, but where it hits at some point in time is when some of the situations become difficult for them to handle. For example, they're not getting the first prize.
Hmm.
And here I feel that the failures are equally important learnings as success is. Okay. We all have learned, we keep reading about this, but we are not able to accept it when it comes to me or my
Yeah.
on our kids. You know, and there was, so as I said, in one of my travels to the Silicon Valley, we had got one, and that was a time that a lot of entrepreneurship spirit was there in the whole organization, and we went to learn what the startup culture in that place is,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a very good speaker from there. And they said that in that environment, the failures are equally accepted as a success.
Absolutely.
You can go to a venture capitalist or and look for funds, and you go back and say, you know what, I started this, I failed. I started this, I failed. As long as the failures are of a different kind, as long as there is a learning out of each failures, it is completely accepted in that environment to fail. Because obviously, if you are on a cutting edge of innovation, two out
That
of
bound to happen. Yeah.
it's bound to happen. So how do you create an innovative mindset if you are just trying to move towards one objective, and if you're not able to handle failures, people give up too easily. Okay. And there I would say, the to your question that you said about your son, I would say the learning and career options should ideally be done by the kids themselves.
Absolutely.
In our profession, again, we, as we move towards more from a traditional product management, project management, to a more agile culture, we were taught that managers are supposed to be impediment removers. Okay. And the scrum teams, and I'm sure some of you who come from this background would agree, the scrum team should be self-fueled. They should have a purpose and they should be able to do that. And the role of the manager is not to control or monitor them, but the role of the manager is more to remove those impediments. Okay. The same approach goes back home. As parents, as teachers, we are the impediment removers. Okay. Quite often than not, I have seen the aspirations of colleges, the aspiration of schools, the aspirations of parents define the aspiration of the kid. And at some point in time, that aspiration needs to stop, at least in our age. As long as you could become a engineer or a manager, engineer or a doctor, the peer pressure was off, or the parental pressure was off. I met a couple of kids from IIT, because as a part of the alumni, they keep coming in and taking some advice or the other. I was alarmed to see that now it has gone to a salary, expectation coming from the home, saying you need to earn this much. Why? Because the newspaper is saying so much more. And they're saying, sir, do you believe this is possible? I didn't want to earn. I wanted to do a postgrad or do a research, but my parents come back and said, there's no money here. You should earn this. I said, okay, fine. At least that was not something that we had to face. But it's a lot of aspiration. But end of the day, we all know, and people who have been in the workspace for 10-15 years would relate to this more. Ultimately, you get success in a field that you are passionate about. You can't shape the employment opportunities of your kids or career options of your kids.
Absolutely. No, you rightly put it across, this particular thing, career option to be chosen by kids, etc. So now, because we have a technology enabled, education platform like us, like edtech platform, like homeClass, what provides. So what is your, this one, what can we do more to support the, these students in their career development? How can this edtech platform help then enhance their, career development? What's your suggestions? What kind of more you want to see us, deliver this kind of through this particular platform?
Yeah, I would say that, look, as I have been talking so far, the canvas now is much more stretched. Okay, both longitudinally or horizontally or in depth, whichever ways, the job canvas or the employment canvas is much, much larger. Okay. And here, such platforms become extremely powerful to meet some of the learning objectives that we just discussed a little while ago, at a reasonable cost. I would say providing the time, another scarce resource, to try
Right.
out new things. I can be in this webinar, and the next, as soon as this one ends, I can start doing something else. Okay. I can even learn music or dance online if you want to. Yeah. So you can try out many things. It allows people to explore their interests, and at the comfort of their homes, or where they can pick up or drop courses. They do an exploration. They feel they can sing a lot more. They listen, then they feel, oh, that's not something that I want to do. Okay. Or I am very good at computers. You do some 3 courses or 3 lectures, and then you realize, this is not something for me. Okay. So it provides an easy onboarding and offboarding if you wish to, so that you can spend time on things that you like doing it. Secondly, you can have a limitless course option, which is online.
Hmm.
You walk into any of the colleges, any of the institutes, they will always have a set of courses that they have to offer. But on a platform like this, you can host any number of courses. You can get people from the best of the teachers from anywhere globally.
Yeah.
I could be sitting here in India, or I could be sitting today in Singapore, or I could be in US. I could be speaking the same way to all of you, right? So the global learning is a reality, and you have to access, and you have the access of the global and diverse knowledge. It is not limited to teachers. It is not limited to a particular content which is generated, and it is not even limited to teaching methods. You can get the best of the teaching methods up here. There is technology to support all of them. Most important is your pace of learning. There are courses that you want to learn, you learn, you get into a binge class, I would say.
Yeah.
And you start doing some 5 chapters every day. And there are some courses where you would like to go slow, because it's a bit difficult, or you decide, oh, I do this in the evening, I do this in the morning, and so on and so forth. So you can manage your pace of learning as per your mood swings of that day. And you don't need to be regimental that morning 8:30 I have to attend a particular course, and so on and so forth. And then the other part, equally true, is the fact that you can be a beginner in one course and you can be an advanced in the other. You don't have to cut a grade 3 or 4 or 5 to be in the next one. You can really be, you can mix and merge your skill level or competency level there. And what is important for India is that you get a much wider audience to compete with. When you go to a coaching class, you have so many students, and then you are taken as number 1 or number 2. But when you sit into a more global platform, you realize where you really are with vis-a-vis regarding competition. Okay, so that makes you a bit more worldly in terms of what you can achieve, what you cannot achieve, and so on and so forth. And I see these edtech platforms as something that are enablers for some of these changes.
Yes, absolutely, and very well said. This one, where platform provides a lot of expertise, resource available at your fingertip, right? So some doubts, even if you're in India, we have we are in India, Australia, Singapore, and we have faculties coming from across the globe, and you want to know, okay, I want to learn this one or this kind of language. Everything is available at a fingertip. Earlier, it was not possible. You need to go through a lot of hassle to to travel a lot to learn something new. But this is right now at your fingertip. So we are seeing some questions from audience as well, but we'll pick it up at a later part of the conversations. So we'll continue with. So as we spoke about rewards, you talk about salary, this kind of salary, etc., expectations. So but we as an Indian, we always talk about risk, कि भाई risk क्या है? Is there a risk in this? What happens, suddenly what? So if you talk about what are the potential risk and challenges associates with this kind of automation job, or new kind of professional which is emerging, right? Can you share some example around it that will help? And what are the impact of this new AI machine learning have a professional in coming years? If you can give some light around it.
Yeah, I think this is this is a hot topic. As I, even when people were joining in, I told you this is a hot research topic with a lot of views and counter views in terms of what will stay and what will go. And now, so earlier people used to talk about machine learning, then they came to AI, or rather, before machine learning was automation, AI, and now they have this new thing called generative AI or Gen AI, as we call it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and you have ChatGPT is made it quite popular. But if it really delivers on the promise that it has, there's bound to be a lot of disruptions in the job market. Okay, it's and why? Because its ability to replicate content, which is human-like in its output, and which really breaks down the communication barriers between human and machine. And that's a big advancement towards productivity boost or towards economic growth as people project it. Okay. The good news is that historically such disruptions from various kinds of automation has been offset by a creation of new job opportunities, okay, or emergence of new professions altogether. So did we have data scientists in so much of an ask earlier? Okay. Did we have instrumentation experts earlier? Did we have network, and did we have DevOps and so on and so forth? So there is a emergence of a lot new professions which are based on these innovations, and which then refuels a productivity boom. Okay, so in one word, I would come back and say that I would see the emergence of jobs and creation of jobs rather than professions or the risk of some of the jobs. Of course, the content changes. Okay. The other part of the story is, and I don't have a prediction of my own, I just go by numerous research papers. Depending on which country it is written, you would find a different number on the plate. But I would say, but the general assumption is that 2/3 of the occupation that we know today, 2/3 of the occupation that we know
That's
today,
a very big number,
will have at least 25% to 50% of their workload shared by artificial intelligence. Okay.
wow.
Again, not my number, but I can see a trend where more and more professions are leveraging AI, not displacing people through AI. Okay. Again, I want to repeat this sentence. The effects will be more on tasks which are more like administrative, legal, management. Today you don't need a battery of junior assistants to prepare a report for you. You just go and ask a question, and it will give you a data, which market, which unit, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you have those digital assistants. You don't really need administrative assistants for everything. Okay, so anything which is related to computers, or where computers can help, that is a place which has a, let's say, a higher complementary solution, whereas the professions which are more physically intensive, okay, like personal care, as your son said, neuro surgery, right? So yes, there will be an effect of IT. By the way, there is enough with robotics, but that is to help a neurosurgeon reach those places which the human hands can't reach. Right. So there is of course, which is there. Construction activities, for example, or maintenance activities that you see. These are some of the areas which are physically intensive professions. The touch would be probably lower. Such effects is, again, depending on which country you are. If you are in a high cost workforce location, then the impacts are going to be more than in the where you have resource abundance.
Hmm.
So again, it is a cost
Yeah,
and
yeah, always
supply
cost,
kind of a thing.
benefit
Yeah,
analysis always
so
play a role. Yeah.
but where I as a bottom line, what I see is that the AI is meant to complement jobs, okay, making the lives easier than replacing jobs, okay. uh, unless they have, there is a repetitive or a pattern which is there. Uh, and in some places, as I said, whether it is medicine or whether it is space research, uh, places which cannot be accessed by humans.
Hmm.
Uh, so those are areas where you would see the usage of robotics, AI, automation coming in.
Got it. Yeah. So, uh, how can professionals stay relevant, right, in this new ever-changing phase of evolving technology? What is your advice?
Continuous learning and adaptability.
Adaptability, I agree. Because
Right.
some people say, no, no, it's like this only. But
So my father started working on punch card readers. Okay, and today he is as much online as any one of you,
yeah,
and that's a huge, journey from there to dumb terminals to PCs to, and so on and so forth. So, and it is so depending on whichever industry you are, there is not a single industry that does not go through a change. Every industry, if you look at it about 10 years ago and what you look today. So when I go back to, for example, Tata Steel and look at the shop floor, the level of automation and things like that, it is much different than what I see today. Okay. And depending on which industry you are, how fast that industry is changing itself, you would see that your need for upskilling is in tandem.
hmm,
Okay. So if you have to be on a cutting edge technology or a cutting edge industry, then you need to keep upskilling yourselves. I mean, look at doctors, lawyers. There is a continuous learning that they have to do, and that's why they are so well placed in their lives. They never retire because they keep learning.
I
Okay,
knew it. Yeah,
and and if I look at the journey for us versus the journey of professions 20 years or 30 years ago, it's been an exponential ride. So what was good then, that you take a college degree and then you can retire with that college degree, is not true anymore.
not true. Completely agree. And with giving in a retail, industry, just give you some few examples. Like in banking, if you need to reach out, there are standard now auto robots who just reply to your queries. Where is my PIN? Where is my debit card? What is my last transaction? Can you send me bank statement? All are automated. Just press 1, 2, and it is done. It's not on the call. You need to do it. It's only very, very important. Then you can reach out to the people because there is a costly affair. That is a and people are now getting used to Swiggy. You just put where is my order, etc. You will come to know what is it. Everything you will come to know what where is my spend for the month, where I'm doing it. Everything is now automated in retail finance industry as well. Even now, during COVID, right? You have a machines cleaning your homes, you know, doing jharu pocha because nobody was coming. So all this is now just everybody's getting habitual. Earlier say no, no, somebody will come and clean your house. Now machines are already started doing. Even when you're going for the shopping, I've seen in India as well as the US. You don't need to go and pick up a cloth and go and change. You just hold and it will show you how it is looking on you by virtual images, right? It is looking good, bad, how it is. So you don't need to go and try every time, remove it, give it to you. So all these things coming to life, right? So but as we speak, there are always a curiosity about how ethical people are using this technology, in future of professional, because and this all automations, right? Because there are different fake news, using differently, not following compliance. Even the rules and US is just signing some new, amendments in this particular monitoring this AI. But what's your view on these ethical concerns which are also coming up? Because we are in a situation of wars, right? Any wrong news can trigger any kind of movement. So How do you see how people are controlling all this?
See, there I would classify uh, the people who are consumers of this technology versus people who are designing this technology. Okay. Consumers of technology are always coming back and showing on WhatsApp news what are the possibilities. We don't give up WhatsApp, though we know that, an alarming amount of fake news comes out of such social media. But they are very good fuels for both the people who are building this technology as well as for the regulators to see what they need to curb. Okay. Yeah, I mean, AI requires a training which is coming from humans, and now what is even worse is AI is being trained from AI itself.
Hmm.
Okay. Because when you go to large language models, there is so much that you just can't give them the business cases to trace. So they find their own traces, and then they get into a self
They are
learn
getting updated every day.
every day. But you need to understand that every responsible company which is investing in AI today is vigilant on the ethical considerations. Okay.
Hmm.
For example, in our own companies, we started much ahead in terms of taking advices or monitoring what is ethical and what is not ethical. And then we would go back and release something. So every responsible company which is investing heavily on AI is aware of what is legal and what is not legal, what is ethical, what is not ethical. On top of that, for every news that you see circulating on WhatsApp, there are government bodies which are framing policies. The monitoring is becoming stricter by the day. Okay. Local compliances are coming in. So for every country, you can do this or you can't do that kind of a thing. And finally, we need to understand that. So somebody may argue, okay, so that's good for big companies and big organizations. What about those smaller, factories of which are generating this?
Hmm.
There, I only have to say one thing: the training of large language models require a lot of data, and it requires a lot of computing power, which requires deep pockets.
Yeah.
It is not possible for everyone to come up with a real, generic model that requires a huge investment.
Hmm.
And hence, it's not that, there'll be so many players in the market tomorrow who are coming up with their tools. Yes, they can consume. By the way, every time that they consume, it's limited in terms of how you can put this to the use. But if you really want to generate some of them and really train them with the kind of data that it requires, it is huge.
So next, the very well industry, we talk about everyone, but the gig economy and freelancer is part of the entire economy as well. So how do you see, this people evolving in this future market, like gig economy and freelancers? How are they doing?
But honestly, I would not have a very particular view about this economy because, on one hand, there is the flexibility both on the employer as well as the economy workers to really they have the flexibility and the scalability, right? So they are required every time anything is on the rise or anything is on the boom. But then there are always the disadvantage or the risk of not having enough opportunities if something is getting more stable or something is declining. So I would not have a particular opinion about the freelancing or the gig economy any different than what I would have spoken for any of the other professions, for example.
Got it. Got it. So this is my favorite one because I'm in partnership. I have formed a lot of partnership with banks, other industries, and made a workaround. And I see that future is like that only, because as you rightly said, you just require a lot of muscle power to do your own. But if you work with ecosystem and you do partnership, you scale a lot and you scale very fast. So in terms of education and skill development, what do you think about how what kind of partnerships or initiative do you think are essentials for preparing the future workforce? Because that is very critical. If prepare ready-made material for companies, that will be easy for you to on the job, and you provide your that 10-20-70 formula instantly and start, he is becoming very productive for the company as well. So what do you think about
Yeah, I would say the focus will be on application of knowledge or applied knowledge. So in our times, we would have, for example, field trips from colleges where we would go back and see an industry. Uh, you know,
it? Oh
a
yes.
couple of which helped me. For example, when I was doing a project in one of the largest retailers now. In those days, it was more petrochemical.
Mm-hmm.
We were designing a warehouse system. Okay, and then a lot of transactions on the warehouse and so on and so forth. So that guy asked me to come to the warehouse, and it was a 2 kilometer long warehouse, and
Two
one
kilometer
corner was a
long.
PC. Yeah, and said, "Now this is the reality. Now tell me how many times you can do a shift to there." I was doing this project for ONGC where
Mm.
we had to go down where we were doing an offshore inventory reconciliation of crude. Okay, on an offshore
Wow.
structure which is vibrating throughout. You don't even get down. You have to jump from a helicopter to be on the floor,
To be on the
and
floor.
then you go down 7 stairs, which is like every floor is 3 times or 2.5 times the height of the normal on a steel bridge,
Mm.
all the way down where the barge comes and say, now you empty this and you go up, and now you enter this. Okay, or you create a very nice screen on your handheld, and then you deploy it in Siberia where you wear thick gloves, where each finger is this thick, and then now you're supposed to press the button to confirm something. So the application knowledge is extremely important. Field trips are extremely important for people to really realize what are they looking at.
Mm.
Okay, what is the size span? How many of our kids have today gone into a big industrial setup to really appreciate square kilometers that they have to converse for the IT thing that they are building. So that is extremely important to see how you can apply knowledge, uh, what you have learned. And my assumption is that then the knowledge is faster, and the retention is even more. The second one is so if bottom line, if schools have to tie up, they should be looking at going into some of these places more
Mm.
often. Okay, giving kids this knowledge. Yeah, a trip to Malaysia and a trip to Hong Kong is fine, but if you can go to the shop floor and show them how work happens, how economy runs, then that is going to be equally important. The other part, of course, is the global outlook. Today we are a connected place. Okay, and if with the advent of technology, you don't need to be physically there. I'm sure by the time we retire, we would have even the virtual reality next to us, or teleporting or whatever. So you don't need to be anywhere, but you need to have a global outlook. You can't run, and I have been in this global role now for about 15-16 years. Not an offshore role, but a real global role. And I can tell you, the way people behave to some statements, or the way your cultural context influences the way people look at you, it's a lot of difference. Whether it is the knowledge of culture, language, food habits, local sports, all of this makes a very, very large difference in terms of how they perceive who you are. And I'm not speaking about technology, because I've spoken technology for long, but if you
Yeah.
want to put a third point, technology could be there. You can't avoid a digital footprint.
Mm. Now you rightly said about applied knowledge, right? In nowadays, schools also, doing this skill trip very regularly, and with using in partnership with the, such kind of platforms, they are trying to get a more and more faculty discussions, awareness. Awareness is, I think, so a lot of part where if your curiosity is going up and you provide those little awareness, I think there is bloom, right? And the kids will pick up very fast because they are in that particular environment of play. So, from your perspective, what impact this kind of early exposures, kids are having it? uh, some of the competitive exams, right? They need to go. There are filtration happens, which is good, which is bad, and somebody needs to improve, like problem solving, mental math, or Olympiads. What kind of impacts have this child in a long term career prospects? So, what
Yeah,
do you
I
suggest?
feel my opinion is, again, it's a bit more balanced on both sides. So first and foremost, a competitive and problem solving mindset does help apply the learnings of the classroom, and also to connect the dots as we move forward between various subjects. Again, it helps the brain to function in multiple dimensions, and not just a single thought process. And it also benchmarks you with the rest of the world. Depending on where you are in terms of a competition, you know how you fare with regards to the rest of the world. And all of this actually makes the child take on to the world much more confidently, okay, where there is a plethora of problems to solve. I mean, you talk to any of the senior management, they say, okay, don't talk to me about the problems, tell me what is the solution. Okay, and it's a common thing across. You always like to hear people who come back and tell you this is how to solve a problem than where is the problem. Right, so it definitely helps. It opens up the minds and so on and so forth. But I would also put a caveat here. And for example, not cracking an Olympiad or an SAT does not mean that the child is any inferior.
Very
Okay.
well.
Not all kids like to solve MCQ. They have a very different connected brain. You give them one subject to study, and the mind starts thinking or questioning the related fields as it goes through. You can leave them for 2 hours, they would not have finished one chapter. That does not mean that the person is not studying. It's just that their brains are more connected, or
Mm.
interrelated problems come through. So they can probably solve a much more larger network of issues than just solving, question one, question two, question three, question four under 30 seconds. And this is where an over reliance of on these standardized tests also leads to lowering of a child's confidence. Because if you keep harping, or if you keep pushing the kid to go through these courses, where when you figure out that in the first or second or third try, and this guy has been attempting genuinely, is not doing to, don't force them there, because it breaks the confidence.
Mm.
And you have to be, at any point in time, be mindful of where your kid feels comfortable.
Yes, actually, you're actually right. Okay, rather than just looking at the marks, just see where he's performing well and push into that particular area, rather than just say click the Olympiad, get this much of mark. Yeah, Olympia is a base where they can help us to grow, to understand, but you need to tune to the result rather than just only the marks. You rightly pointed out that will give you the parents where the child is heading, where are those his interests on the particular subjects, and pick it up. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, any other point on this?
No, I'm done, thank you.
Great. So we always, we are in India, we have 120 odd crore people. So people will talk about automation, they fear unemployment, right? Then it will become political Buddha, कि अरे unemployment होने वाला है. So, how can organization balance this kind of benefits of automation with the potential of job displacement or unemployment? If you have some thoughts around it.
Quite honestly, I mean, so far I have not come across a direct correlation between automation and job losses. Okay.
Hmm.
Neither in the organizations that I have worked, nor in the organizations that I'm familiar with. Okay. But it obviously, the mantra of automation is more to increase productivity, which means that you either do things faster And why do you do things faster? Because your stakeholders and the industry needs a certain speed or efficiency or decision making capability. You can't wait for a loan now for a week there, right? So you need people to come back and say, this is where it is. Or you start doing things smarter and getting away from mundane tasks. If we were doing a project, we would spend hours in the library just trying to look for and copying what is written in different books to make a project report. Today you don't need to do all that, right? So end of the day, every organization which has a growth outlook would require that the output of this organization is more than what it was yesterday. Okay, and how much can you beat an individual up there? You can't, right? So you have to leverage automation to increase the speed of output or the smartness of output without having to rely on mass hiring for every requirement. Because end of the day, it is easier for me to train an existing staff on a new piece of technology than to hire, let's say, 100 more people and onboard them, make them part of your culture, make them part of your business processes, and so on and so forth. So in my opinion, the benefit of the automation is only to gain efficiency, because every organization needs to grow, and speed, because every organization is expected to perform much more faster than they have been doing before. And I don't see a job loss in either of them.
And I completely agree with you. It is similar to when computer came in, right? In the picture. People are thinking, oh, computer will take away the accountant's job, a data entry right now. And but computer created so many jobs after that. People are getting used to it, and then so many new jobs were created, and the people are aligned to that. So I think we are in that flux. Once we have a more and more clarity of how automations and AI can help clearing out regular stuff, but enhance your productivity, which can help the company as well as the individual. So I agree with you on that particular. Also, if you can just discuss about the concept on lifelong learning, right? People always learn, right? As you rightly said, on the job, when you are kids, parents also nowadays learning and updating their skills. So and schools and teachers are also doing those kind of training sessions for them, right, to prepare it. So what is that important in the future job market or the entrepreneurship people are doing it? So what is the what you think about?
Yeah, I mean, I hear this question and I think about myself, what are those activities that I'm right on to? Okay. And I can tell you, so preparing for an independent director course on one hand, learning or German language beyond what I knew, learning a bit of AI, because obviously it's a new topic, and if I have to sit in such panels, I have to, of course, learn. For me, learning is a fulfillment topic. It's a personal topic. Personal fulfillment. You decide to keep learning outside of your formal or corporate education. That's what I would say is lifelong learning. And at some point in time, it is triggered by your own quest to remain relevant. Okay. Or to get over any kind of a personal challenge. So some people believe they're not good in communication and they take up a lot of communication courses. Some people feel that they are just bad at they are too stickler to a food. They start roaming around, trying different cuisines, which has nothing to do with learning. But end of the day, it is simply about, or somebody starts singing or picking up a guitar at an old age because they just don't want a boredom to come. So it's more about pursuing your passion. I don't feel any learning goes waste. If you ask me, how will it impact the future job? I would say no learning goes waste. Okay, it's just that all of these pieces come together at a certain point in time. I mean, I have looked back into the courses where I was getting A's, irrespective of me doing, an engineering course and an MBA course. I can tell you the courses where I got A. Thankfully, I am in the same profession. Now, whether it is thankfully in the same profession or consciously not willing to do anything different than this profession is a bit debatable question that I'll probably answer a few years down the line. But if you, the most successful startups, for example, are those that follow a passion. People say 99% fail. You ask 99% of them, or quite a significant, I won't put a number there, but quite a significant number of people, even before they start a business, they are talking about how much money they will earn before they can sell this off. You know, but the ones which have really been successful are people who have followed a passion, and it could be in any field. Okay. And the beauty of self learning is that there is no external pressure on you. There is no duress.
Yeah,
You see a purpose behind a particular learning, and then you learn. And from my perspective, then a lifelong learning to me is the real learning because you're doing it for yourself.
absolutely. And if you're doing it for your own self because of your passion or your interest, you will commit a some certain numbers. You will do some practice. You will find out different ways. You will find out that group whom you want to interact with. So as you write, and that will happen over a period of time. But and if you that apply in your early age for your students or your child, okay, whatever that interest, you start doing it rather than just keeping that earning number in your mind. I think that will be great change we are looking at, right? So these are all hard skills we are talking about, right? कि engineering, ये hard skills तो होना चाहिए. But let's talk about soft skill also, which is very important, right? And you already touched upon the cultural one, how to say hello, hi in the different language when you're traveling global. So what do you see such a creativity and emotional intelligence play in this future professional role, right? Is it important for the future or it is already is important in the current environment also? So
Yeah, I mean, look, as I say, in an interconnected world, multicultural world, multi-demographic world, the need of soft skills cannot be undermined. You know, as an individual contributor, but more as a manager or a leader, you need to emotionally connect uh, with the aspirations of the people, with the needs of the people, with the perceptions that they have of you, or the fears that your people have, which with any change. You know, these are all emotional connects. You can't rationally solve them. Sometimes you can't even solve them. You just need to listen to them, be empathic. Okay. So and these are all soft skills. People talk about active listening, people talk about engaging, active engagement, and so on and so forth. These are things which are more relevant than others. um, if I was limited to a steel city, for example, it's a township where everybody knows everybody else. They know what they have been doing from childhood. I know all my uncles and great grand uncles and so on and so forth. But when the canvas is global,
hmm.
okay, how you interact with the others, uh, and more importantly, how you are perceived as a human being, it has an equal, if not a higher weightage than who you really are. You can be the greatest consultant, you can be the greatest technocrat, but if you can't work with people, people don't recognize.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
you
that
have to have your own brand, and that brand is a lot dependent, not only on your resume, but also in terms of how you interact with the people.
you rightly said. This soft skills makes a lot of difference versus leader and the person, right? Need to be humble, cultural driven, respect. Those are the things are very well embedded from our early school days, right? School plays a very role. At 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock sharp opening, there's a prayer, so everybody's at attention. So that's how it shows, prayer needs to be done at this time. You need to follow this particular thing. Wherever you are, if prayer is on, you need to stand there. You can't move around. So some basic things, right? But it's very critical for the life. You never forget those basic, your fundamentals of life, right? So how can students and these professionals leverage technology to create new career opportunities?
I think technology is no longer a differentiator. Okay, it is an imperative. So going forward, the question is not in terms of in your career, do you know technology or not? The question more is about how you leverage this technology. Okay, it's all there. You can obviously get a lot more speed. You can get a lot more efficiency. You can get into a lot more innovation by leveraging technology. But it's not like, if I learn a particular computer language or something, I'll be successful. No, you have to leverage technology.
Hmm. Absolutely. Very well said. What are you see, more, because this, whenever there is a hot topic, policymakers, enforcement, people comes in the play. So, what are the some key considerations for policymakers when addressing the future of the professional and the job market? What do you think policymakers should do, or what kind of things do you have advice on?
I think the policymakers today are also leveraging those global trends, and they are adjusting their policies on the investment into technology or harnessing them for their own national advantage. I mean, we all heard the probably we still remember one of the first statements or messages that came from our prime minister, saying that we have the youngest crowd under 30. We really are the IT. We can really make digitization as our forefront and so on and so forth. And that has changed into a lot of policy making today. You keep hearing about this UPI. It's a very simple technology, but now every other country is coming back and saying, where is this technology heading?
Wow.
So, I mean, we did have a German, I think it was a German or a Swiss diplomat who was here using UPI to do vegetable shopping in one of our places. Became a news a couple of months ago. But that is where I think the policymakers are looking at what's good for us, where are the advantages, and a lot of these things. Like today, I'm sure all of you don't need a physical copy of your medical records to be submitted. That was off from this. Everything is digital footprint. You don't need to go to a bank to open your accounts. They come home, or you just digitally sign. Aadhaar is everywhere. So that's how the policymakers are leveraging. They're harnessing some of these trends and also doing their branding to the rest of the
Hmm.
world. And again, in this era, it is the talent war. So every, not only for the companies but also for countries. So a lot of visa requirements that you see coming in, going out, and so and so forth, is more fueled by their ambitions to establish themselves again in the areas, critical areas, whether it is aerospace, defense, infotech, biotech, and so on and so forth, but a lot around technology. So you can see a lot of these things happening uh,
Hmm.
around you if you just look at it a bit closer.
No, no, I think so. Very well said. I think the team at our central level are very well equipped with this kind of, and UPI is great success based on Aadhaar or whatever the technology which we are using. And I think so. We are exporter of now UPI technology across the countries. Many people are using it. Even US is developing this kind of American UPI product, and that will be huge. If it is getting used based upon our technology, so that will be a big win for India as well. So we are in the last 10 minutes of the session. So very just want to know in closing, what is your vision for the future professionals and the opportunities it holds for the younger generation, right? Uh, what do you what's your view on that?
I would say, in one word, exponential possibilities, exponential opportunities. Uh, you know, Simply because the world's problems are not getting reduced. Uh, there's a plethora of problems that come through. There's not a single decision that can be limited to one part of the world. I mean, even general elections, if you look at it, the election of a state or a country today is also has its ramifications or repercussions across the globe, right? So it is a much more connected world. The recession in one part of the world affects the other. The disturbance of, let's say, a supply chain for microchips in a country helps the other. So there is a lot which is happening in terms of the shifts that is geopolitical, which is to do with the advent of technology, for example, the kind of challenges, and most importantly, the aspirations of people. Everybody wants more than what they have today, and that throws up exponential opportunities. So it's just that again, coming back to the agenda of this session. I mean, look, nobody can predict what are the jobs of the future. Okay, but you can prepare yourselves to be successful in any of the jobs, provided some of the things that we just spoke of in the earlier sections, you're really able to live with. There is no one mantra, there's no one textbook. You just have to be penchant for this and having a desire to get knowledge later. And I would probably stop here.
No, this is a great advice, and you rightly put it across on this particular session. We have a lot of questions coming, Q&A coming from the audience, where we have some 90 plus questions. Team has just filtered some 3-4 questions for you over and above this one what we planned. Right? If you can, I'll just go one by one, and people please stay tuned. If we are not able to pick up your question particularly, we are picking up the best where it can answer to masses as well. So we all talking about the bright students and all this stuff, right? So what about people's are little weak in studies initially, right? Not by the numbers, going by the numbers, and they are connected, differently talented in different subjects, etc. So how does that weak students prepare themselves for 2040 job mark? Because we always talk about job, and I always talk about also have a incline towards the startup, right, entrepreneurship market. So both, if you can give some advice.
As I said earlier, I don't see that in my view, there are no average talents and there are no average students. Grades, they do not always reflect the capability. And sometimes you pick up a subject more under a compulsion because your parents want it, or the society sees that this is important, and so on and so forth. I mean, before you seek your job, you need to assess where your strength is, because end of the day, what you put on the resume are only the things that display your strength. You have a brand to sell in yourself, okay? And no one has a person who's not more suited. So I think there are a lot of courses, for example, which is search within yourself and so on and so forth. I mean, end of the day, I still feel that at some point in time, you need to be more real in terms of where your strengths are and what you pick. I mean, it's a very, very difficult for me to answer why, if I get 2 resumes, somebody says I'm an above average in whichever sphere, and not only studies, and somebody says I'm below average. And why would I hire somebody who's below average? But I would still hire somebody who, if I just look at the grades, I would still hire somebody who's able to impress me most with their values, with their system, with what their outlook is, and so on and so forth.
Great. There is one interesting question where, if you had an opportunity to learn from any historical figure in your chosen profession, who would be that, and what specific lessons or insight would you seek from them?
Look, I have always loved a lot of history. Okay, so one of my favorite channels when I was kid, I used to watch in Doordarshan all those history things that would come right from the Panchatantra onwards, which is not history, by the way, it's more fables. But yeah, I mean, Chanakya was something that I followed a lot. I liked that serial, not only because of its positives, but also the fears of human beings, the egos of human beings, right? So that was a very good serial that I would do. I was very impressed with the Discovery of India, series. I still have them, by the way, if
Oh,
somebody wants a CD of those with me. But I like a lot of history there. Of late, I have picked up the European history because we only knew a bit of that European history. Now, with both my kids in Europe, I definitely try to learn a bit more of what is happening. The recent, for example, the recent war. I'm just digging deep into where the conflict is coming from, and it's a lot of learning.
mm.
But I do it more because of fun than anything else. I'm sure there's some learning. You can't imagine that you're reading something or assimilating something and there's no learning which is happening there. It's very difficult in a rapid fire question to come back and answer how it affects.
So we are less than 4 minutes to the session. I'll just take a final one before we wrapping up this session. So, as you already talked about, history and all. So, are Indian students more geared for entrepreneurial journey or aiming for a pure job market in the future? What is your view? India was a land of traders, right? We are historically more richer than we British took over us. But what your view on that part?
Look, we have a trait of what we call a jugaad. Okay,
Very
I also
famous
have a
word.
book which is called, yeah, I have a book which is called Jugaad, right? And I've read that book. So
Written by
my
Nainalal
my
Kudwani?
yeah,
Uh, Written by Nainalal Kidwani?
yeah, so I do feel that we have this inherent way of finding out an innovative solution to any of our problems. We've been a country that has gone through a fast pace. It's a land of multiple billion people, and hence, to stick yourself out, you have to do something which is extraordinary than the normal. Okay, and hence, I would say that there would be an entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of people. But then, as I talked about 10, 20, and 70, anybody who believes that with a 10% MBA knowledge, they could be the best entrepreneurs, they could be probably, if they have been thinking about this, chances are not. And here I would say that it is very important to learn from the industry, okay, in whichever field you are. Passion is good, but along with passion and your innovative mind, you need to harness the experience that this rich country has, not only in India, but abroad.
Hmm.
Okay. And that would probably give a more holistic perspective. See, today you finish your IIT and then you just want to get onto an MBA school. You go abroad, the minimum experience that is required is about 4 years before you can even apply for an MBA. Okay, and that's the difference in approach. So you need to have some experiential learning. You need to shape yourself and convince yourself that this is the right path that you are on before you start discovering who you are. Whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you are good as a bureaucrat or whether you would like to continue in a technical role, it's your choice, but give it some time.
Yeah, I think so. This decade belongs to India, and I wrap it up over here. I thank your time and your wisdom. We like to, host multiple sessions with you. It's 1.5 hours of your time is very, very valuable, and we'll definitely see synergies in the future as well. I also like to thank, our schools and offices who are casting in this their particular premises and the boardrooms as well, because it's getting telecast across the schools and the boards as well. So thank you very much, Prasad, for your time and very, very helpful this particular session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.